Listen carefully, because I'm not going to repeat myself. Most of you walk through life as if success were a matter of luck or a stroke of genius at just the right moment. It's a stupid and dangerous view. Warren and I didn't build Berkshire Hathaway by chasing miracles. We built it by avoiding systematic stupidity. People get obsessed with the big move, the masterstroke that will lift them out of mediocrity in a single euphoric afternoon. They want the Hollywood version, with adrenaline and flashing screens. The reality, much to your ego's disappointment, is that solid wealth is agonizingly boring. It's not hurricanes, but what I call termites. A financial hurricane can knock down a house in 10 seconds, but termites, those small, invisible, constant habits, are what truly devour the foundation of your future while you're distracted, gazing at the sky. Most people fail not because of one great tragedy, but because of 1,000 small daily bites to their capital and their ability to think clearly. Today, I'm going to dissect 5 of those invisible habits that, if you have the discipline to apply them, will turn you into an impenetrable fortress. If you're looking for entertainment, go to the movies. If you're looking for rationality, pay attention. Most of you operate under the dangerous illusion that success is a volcanic event, a life-changing stroke of genius in a single euphoric afternoon. It's monumental nonsense. Real wealth is agonizingly dull. It's the result of what I call positive termites. Just as invisible termites devour a house's foundation until it collapses, your small daily habits are building or demolishing your future while you sleep. Oh, people fear the hurricane, a market crash, or a global crisis, but what really kills most of us is the steady drip of mediocre decisions, stupid spending, and a lack of cognitive focus. If you can't see the termites, you're already in serious trouble. Let's talk about the first habit, the too difficult tray. The academic system has brainwashed you into believing that complexity is synonymous with intelligence. In college, if you solve a multivariable calculus problem, you get a medal. In the marketplace, if you try to jump a 7-foot fence when you can simply walk over a 1-foot one, you're an idiot. Warren has a box on his desk where he throws any business we can't understand in 3 minutes. We don't call in Wall Street consultants to explain it to us. We simply discard it. If the business model requires a genius to work, we're not interested. We prefer to be the guy who takes a step over the small obstacle while the geniuses break their necks trying to do somersaults. The second habit is the accumulation of permanent knowledge. The average investor is a junkie for junk information. They sit in front of flickering screens, consuming news that will have a 3-hour lifespan. That's not research. It's expensive entertainment. Warren and I spend our days reading things that don't change: economic history, human psychology, proven business models. Reading isn't about memorizing facts and regurgitating them at a dinner party. It's about building a network of mental models. If you read a boring report today, you might not earn a penny tomorrow, but 20 years from now. That piece of knowledge will connect with another and allow you to see an opportunity that the rest of the world, blinded by the noise of social media, will completely ignore. Third habit, mastering the empty room. Modern civilization has turned boredom into a medical emergency. Put a man in an empty room, and within 2 minutes he'll be checking his phone for a dopamine hit. That action bias is lethal to capital. Wall Street wants you to move, to trade, to change your strategy, because they live off your commissions. We live off our inactivity. We're like crocodiles in mud. A crocodile doesn't swim desperately chasing minnows. It saves every ounce of energy until a fat zebra comes within range. If you don't have the temperament to sit and do absolutely nothing for years, the market will fleece you, using your own anxiety as a weapon. The fourth is religious reverence for capital. I see people get a raise and rush out to buy a German car to impress neighbors they hate. It's a form of insanity. They're buying golden wives. Every dollar you waste on status is a soldier you've sent to the slaughter instead of sending him to the war of compound interest. Warren still lives in the same house he's lived in since 1958 and has breakfast at McDonald's for less than $4. It's not stinginess, it's understanding that capital is freedom. If your possessions force you to work a job you despise to pay the mortgage, you're not a property owner. You're a slave with good taste. Keep your expenses like a peasant while your income rises like a king's, and you'll buy your complete autonomy. Finally, the internal scoreboard. The external scoreboard is what the world thinks of you. The internal scoreboard is what you know you are. If you do something stupid and the world applauds you, you're still a fool. If you do something rational and the world boos you, you're still rational. In the 1990s, we were called dinosaurs for not buying unprofitable tech stocks. If we had lived by the external scoreboard, we would have jumped off the cliff with the rest of the herd. But we stayed in Omaha, reading our books and waiting for gravity to do its work. The bubble geniuses disappeared. We thrived. Don't seek the applause of the crowd. Seek the validation of logic. Listen carefully. If you think success is about having an IQ of 160, you're profoundly mistaken. Warren and I have seen geniuses ruined because they couldn't control their most basic impulses. Intelligence without discipline is like a Ferrari without brakes. It only makes you crash faster. In this segment, we're going to dissect the psychological forces that cloud your judgment and prevent you from seeing reality as it is. If you can't master your own mind, you have no chance of mastering the market. Here's Block 2. Block 2, paragraphs 11 to 20. Complexity envy is a disease that particularly affects brilliant minds who don't know how to simplify. Many believe that if a solution isn't complicated, it's not valuable or worthy of their superior intellect. That's why the financial world is riddled with incomprehensible products and mathematical models with 1,000 variables that no one truly understands, not even those who sell them. At Berkshire, we've made a fortune by being painfully simple and straightforward. If a business model can't be explained with common-sense logic to a 10-year-old, we throw it in the bin immediately. Don't confuse sophistication with true intelligence. True mastery lies in distilling complexity to find the underlying basic truth. If you need a supercomputer to decide whether an investment is good, it probably isn't. Incentives are the most powerful force in the known universe, and underestimating them is the mark of a beginner. Never, under any circumstances, trust the advice of someone who has a direct financial interest in selling you something specific. If you go to the barber and ask if you need a haircut, the answer will always be a resounding yes. The world is full of experts whose only real skill is convincing you that their personal interests align with yours. We prefer systems where the manager has their own skin in the game. If they lose, we lose. Any other structure is an open invitation to fraud or incompetence, disguised as professionalism. Look at incentives, and you'll understand the bottom line. It's a law as immutable as gravity on planet Earth. Envy is the most foolish of the 7 deadly sins in the human repertoire because it's the only one that doesn't produce even an ounce of real pleasure. If you overeat, at least you enjoy the food. If you steal, at least you get something. But envy only makes you miserable as you bitterly watch others succeed. In the world of money, envy drives people to take absurd risks to catch up with others who are making money faster in a bubble. Warren and I have always been happy watching others get rich, as long as we were acting with absolute rationality. The road to ruin is paved with people who crashed their lives because they were watching in the rearview mirror how much ground their neighbor was gaining. The concept of a margin of safety should be applied to every critical decision you make in your life. You don't build a bridge that supports exactly 10 tons if you expect 10-ton trucks to cross it. You build it to support 30, just in case. Yet, I see people living on the edge of their income, using debt to buy luxuries that depreciate, and blindly trusting that the future will always be clear. That's not optimism. It's reckless imprudence that invariably ends in financial tragedy. Life has a funny way of throwing you curveballs when you least expect it. If you don't have a safety net, both in your character and your bank account, you'll crumble at the first bump in the road. The reciprocity bias is an invisible biological trap that empties the pockets of the unwary without them even realizing it. Human beings are evolutionarily programmed to return favors, and professional salespeople know this perfectly well. They give you a free sample or invite you to a fancy dinner to activate in your brain the need to reciprocate by buying a mediocre product. It's pure and simple biological manipulation that clouds rational judgment. You have to learn to be the unfriendly type who says no despite the gifts and attention. Your loyalty should be to your family and your own financial future, not to the guy trying to sell you an insurance policy with astronomical commissions. Let's talk about the appeal to authority fallacy and our servile tendency to believe anyone wearing an expensive suit or holding a prestigious title. I've seen multinational boards approve disastrous acquisitions simply because an investment banker with a polished presentation told them it was a strategic opportunity. It doesn't matter who says it. If the internal logic doesn't support the argument on its own, the argument is utterly worthless. Learn to filter every piece of advice through your own sieve of independent thought patterns. If the emperor has no clothes, be the first to say so clearly, even if the entire crowd is praising his invisible attire. Independence of judgment is the rarest asset on this planet, and the most valuable for any investor. Leverage, or debt, is the fastest way for a smart person to end up sleeping under a cold bridge. There are 3 main ways to go broke in this life: alcohol, women, and leverage. Most people choose the third because it sounds professional on an Excel spreadsheet. Using borrowed money to invest is like putting a steel spike on your steering wheel pointing directly at your heart. If the road is smooth, you get there faster, but at the slightest bump, you're dead. We've never been in a hurry to get rich using other people's money. If you're smart and patient, money will come naturally. There's no logical need to risk what you already have. Consider confirmation bias, the true cancer of contemporary rational thought. Once we adopt an idea, we desperately seek out any data that supports it and automatically dismiss anything that directly contradicts it. This is why investors hold on to stocks plummeting to absolute zero with irrational, almost religious faith. To combat this, I actively seek out people who disagree with me and try to understand their logic with brutal honesty. If they can't find the flaw in their own thinking, I assure you the market will find it for them and exact a hefty price for their arrogance. Humility isn't thinking less of yourself. It's doubting your own opinions as if they were absolute truths. Excessive specialization is a double-edged sword in the modern economy. The market rewards you for knowing a lot about very little, but that makes you a functional idiot in all the other areas of life that matter. It's the syndrome of the man with a hammer who sees nails everywhere. If you only know about finance, you don't understand the mass psychology that drives real prices. You have to be a generalist on the big picture to be an effective specialist in your own field. Worldly wisdom requires you to jump the fences of university departments and understand how all the pieces of the puzzle fit together. It's no use being an expert in an industry that's about to be destroyed. Finally, understand the power of erroneous association in your brain. The nervous system links things that have no logical connection simply because they happen together in time. If you made money on an investment during a rainy afternoon, your subconscious might start preferring cloudy days for doing business. It's absurd, but that's how we operate on an instinctive level. In the same way, we associate a high price with quality, or a presentable person with absolute honesty. You must learn to separate the raw facts from cheap emotional associations. A good company can be a terrible investment if the price you pay is too high. Don't be fooled by appearances. What matters is intrinsic value. The concept of opportunity cost is the ultimate filter for any mind that aspires to be logical, even though the masses ignore it in their daily decision-making. In capital management, every time you allocate resources to a mediocre investment, you're killing the possibility of entering into something extraordinary in the near future. Warren and I don't compare our opportunities against a theoretical risk-reward model. We compare them against the best real alternative we have on the table at that precise moment. If you have a golden opportunity, any other option, however good it may seem, automatically becomes a costly strategic mistake. The discipline lies in learning to say no to the good, so that you have the capital and energy available when the excellent one appears. Most people fail because they scatter their attention across a dozen average projects while we wait for the one stroke that will move the needle. Ideological consistency is a form of intellectual suicide that you must avoid at all costs if you aspire to true worldly wisdom. The human brain prefers to hold a fixed opinion forever because changing one's mind consumes energy that evolution has taught us to jealously conserve. However, in a complex and ever-changing system, blind consistency is a sure recipe for utter disaster and obsolescence. I try to destroy my own favorite ideas at least once a year. If I don't, I consider that I have wasted my time and allowed my mind to rust. The ability to admit that you were profoundly wrong is not a sign of weakness of character, but the clearest sign of a superior intelligence at work. You must be the sentinel of your own mind, constantly on the lookout for which beliefs no longer align with physical reality. Let's talk about the association fallacy, where the brain mistakenly links past success to supposed personal skill. Just because you made money betting on a volatile tech stock doesn't mean you're an expert in the sector. You were most likely just a lucky fool caught in a general bull run. Luck masquerades as skill with a frequency that should terrify any serious investor who doesn't want to be taken in by chance. To combat this bias, you must coldly analyze the process that led you to the decision, on completely disregarding the final outcome. A good result stemming from a flawed thought process is a deadly trap that sets you up for much greater failure in the future. Focus exclusively on the quality of your logic and the strength of your long-term mental models. Insatiable curiosity is the true engine of everything we've accomplished in nearly 10 decades of successful trading. You can't just decide to be smart one Tuesday afternoon. Wisdom is a massive accumulation of years of constant, deliberate learning. My personal goal is to always die a little less stupid than when I woke up that morning in Omaha. This commitment to lifelong learning gives an unfair competitive advantage over those who stopped studying the moment they received their diploma. The world is teeming with people trying to solve 21st century problems with outdated mental tools from the last century. If you aren't constantly updating your mental software through deep reading and analysis, you'll become obsolete faster than you can imagine. Integrity isn't an optional ethical concept for making a good impression in meetings. It's a functional survival tool in high-level business. You'll encounter many brilliant people who completely lack a basic moral compass and a sense of decency. My advice is straightforward. Avoid them like the plague or a massive miscalculation. You can't close a good deal with a bad person, no matter how attractive the projected numbers on paper may look. A reputation takes decades of impeccable behavior to build and only requires a second of weakness to destroy it with a shortcut that wasn't worth it. At the end of your career, all you truly own is your name and the unwavering trust you've inspired. Don't sell that sacred asset for a few pieces of silver. Understanding critical mass, or the advantage of scale, is vital to understanding why some corporations dominate while others die in utter irrelevance. In many industries, being the largest grants a cost advantage that is mathematically impossible for smaller competitors to match. It's a positive feedback loop. You sell more because you're cheaper, and you're cheaper because you sell more volume than the rest. But beware. Scale also brings bureaucracy, which is the cancer of corporate efficiency and mental clarity. As an investor, I look for companies that have the benefits of scale without the dead weight of institutional complacency. Understanding these power dynamics is far more useful than trying to guess what the stock market index will do tomorrow morning. Aggressive patience is a paradox that defines Warren's and my success over the years. We may go absurdly long periods without making a single significant stock or company purchase. We sit on a mountain of cash, waiting patiently, while the rest of the world calls us old-fashioned or tells us we're missing golden opportunities. But when the right opportunity arises, when the price is ridiculously low and the business is excellent, we don't buy a little. We buy with everything we have. Most people do too many small, mediocre things out of sheer boredom. The secret is to do nothing most of the time, and then act with astonishing determination when the odds are massively in your favor. Intelligent inactivity is a lost art. Consider self-pity as one of the most destructive and paralyzing emotions you can harbor in your mind. When something goes wrong with your investments or career, the human tendency is to blame the economy, the government, or bad luck. Feeling like a victim is a form of mental suicide that prevents you from learning from your own errors in judgment. I have experienced personal tragedies and financial setbacks, but I have never allowed myself the luxury of feeling sorry for myself for even a second. Self-pity doesn't solve complex problems. It only clouds rational judgment and drains the energy needed for corrective action. Take full responsibility for your life and your financial decisions. That is the only solid foundation upon which a truly rational mind can be built. Specialization is often a form of willful blindness that prevents you from seeing the bigger picture. The market rewards you for knowing a lot about a small niche, but the real world will destroy you if you don't understand how that niche interacts with other disciplines. You don't need to be an expert in every field, but you do need to grasp the fundamental principles that govern reality, such as thermodynamics, biological evolution, and psychology. This multidisciplinary approach gives you an almost unfair competitive advantage over specialists trapped in their tunnel vision. While they get lost in technical details, you'll be able to see the breaking points and hidden connections they completely ignore. Wisdom isn't found in a single well of specialized knowledge. Finally, in this section, I want you to reflect on the importance of interconnected mental models. A mental model is simply a representation of how something works in the real world, such as the law of diminishing returns or the psychology of social proof. If you only have one model, like the man with a hammer, you'll try to force reality into your tool, which is a recipe for disaster. You need a network of models, a latticework, in your mind to hang your experience and data on. Only when ideas from multiple disciplines intertwine do you begin to gain a clear understanding of what's really going on. Without this structure, you're simply memorizing isolated facts that are useless when push comes to shove. True intelligence is the ability to connect the seemingly unconnected. The signaling theory is a concept you must examine closely if you want to understand collective human stupidity. We live in a society where people spend capital they don't possess to acquire things they don't need, solely to impress people they couldn't care less about. It's a form of socially acceptable insanity. True wealth is precisely what remains unseen, the assets that work silently while you sleep, and the ostentation you had the discipline to forego. By relinquishing immediate external validation, you are buying something infinitely more valuable: absolute freedom and autonomy over your scarcest resource, which is time. Financial rationality begins when you manage to silence your own ego and allow compound interest to be the sole voice of the world. You must deeply understand that the world is not a predictable, linear machine where one action always leads to a specific result. It is a complex system full of unpredictable and chaotic human interactions. For that reason, I viscerally distrust any charlatan who promises guaranteed results or magic formulas for quick success. In a complex system, the absolute priority should not be extreme optimization for profit, but resilience in the face of disaster. If you optimize your life so that everything only works under perfect laboratory conditions, you will shatter into 1,000 pieces at the first contact with the harsh reality of a crisis. I prefer to be slightly less efficient today to be much more robust tomorrow. Long-term survival is the only objective that truly matters in the unforgiving game of money. If you manage to stay on the board long enough, time will do the heavy lifting for you. Resentment is a corrosive poison that you must purge from your nervous system if you aspire to maintain any degree of mental clarity. It's the psychological equivalent of drinking acid and patiently waiting for your enemy to be the one who burns from the inside out. Resentment clouds judgment to such an extent that it prevents you from seeing the obvious opportunities right in front of you. I've watched people waste entire decades dwelling on past injustices, real or imagined, instead of devoting that energy to building a sound and rational future. If you want to be a successful investor and a functioning human being, you must learn the discipline of moving on quickly. Life is too short to carry the dead weight of other people's grudges. Clear your mental slate frequently so that logic can operate without unnecessary emotional interference. In the false dichotomy between specialization and polymathy, I will always bet on the individual who masters the big ideas from multiple interconnected disciplines. The current market will pay you for knowing a lot about a small, specific niche, but the realities of the world will destroy you if you don't understand how that small niche fits into the global machine. You don't need to be an academic expert in every field, but you do need to grasp the fundamental principles that govern existence, such as thermodynamics, evolution, and mass psychology. This multidisciplinary approach gives you a competitive advantage that is almost unfair over those who only see the world through a single filter. While specialists are trapped in their tunnel vision, you will be able to detect the breaking points and hidden connections that everyone else simply ignores. Be extremely wary of the death by 1,000 cuts in your personal and business finances. It's not always major crises that ruin people, but rather small, unnecessary expenses and a lack of control over everyday spending habits. A 2% commission here, a useless subscription there, and a lifestyle that expands to devour every pay raise are the parasites that silently consume your freedom. Financial discipline isn't about living like a medieval ascetic, but about being an efficient and ruthless steward of your own resources. Every dollar you manage to save today is a tireless employee who will work for you for the rest of your days without ever complaining. Treat your capital with the respect it deserves, because it is the unique seed of your future independence and peace of mind. At the end of the day, what truly separates winners from losers in this game isn't IQ, but temperament in the face of adversity. I've known people with truly brilliant minds who turned out to be disastrous investors because they couldn't control their own primal emotional reactions. Success requires a highly unusual mix of extreme patience and timely aggression when the odds are in your favor. You must be able to watch your net worth drop significantly on paper without feeling like your world is completely collapsing. If your emotional stability depends on daily stock market charts or the opinion of a TV analyst, then you're not in control of your own destiny. Character is destiny, and in the world of capital, character is tested in moments of deepest doubt and utter isolation. The quest for rationality is a life project that doesn't end until your last day on this planet. It's not a state of mystical enlightenment you suddenly arrive at, but an active and often painful process you must practice every morning in front of the mirror. It requires constant paranoid vigilance against your own evolutionary instincts and a willingness to be unpopular when logic clearly dictates otherwise. Often, being rational means being the only person in the room who isn't screaming with euphoria or paralyzing terror. It's a lonely position, I admit, but immensely rewarding in the long run. Eventually, you'll discover that the greatest satisfaction doesn't come from your bank balance, but from the absolute peace of mind that comes from knowing you're operating in harmony with objective reality. Life has taught me that the greatest truths are surprisingly simple, even if they are extremely difficult to consistently implement. Work hard, be honest, spend less than you earn, and never under any circumstances stop learning something new every day. It sounds like old-fashioned grandpa advice, but it's the granite foundation upon which Warren and I have built our entire empire. People seek esoteric secrets and complex algorithms because simplicity seems boring and unsophisticated to their egos. However, the true competitive advantage lies in doing the basics exceptionally well over a very long period of time. You don't need to jump over 6-foot hurdles. Fine 30-centimeter hurdles you can safely walk over and repeat the process ad infinitum. Reflect deeply on your most precious resource, the time you have left. You can earn more money through work and buy more financial assets, but there is no power in the universe that can give you back a single lost second. Therefore, it is a fatal mistake and a lack of respect for yourself to waste your existence with people you don't respect or on activities that don't nourish your intellect. Financial wealth has only one real and legitimate purpose: to give you complete control over your own time. If you have millions of dollars but remain a slave to the expectations of others, then you are not rich. You are merely a prisoner with a more comfortable and luxurious cell. My goal has always been to be my own master, and I assure you it is the best investment of my life. I'll end with a thought about the legacy you'll leave behind. It's not measured by the number of figures in your bank account, but by the clarity of thought you've brought to those around you. If you've learned to think for yourself and helped others avoid the pitfalls of envy, resentment, and irrationality, then you've been a resounding success. Be a worthy ancestor to your future self. Make choices today that you'll be proud of when you have my age and perspective. Life is a character test that's graded at the end, not on the midterm results each term. Stay curious, stay disciplined, and above all, never let the noise of the world drown out the voice of your own reason.